This is an intake manifold for the Pontiac 301 engine. This particular intake is from a turbo Trans Am. They made them for 2 years only, 1980 and 1981. The others were also available in 2-barrel and 4-barrel. And this one's for a turbo and only has a single hole for the turbo to mount onto. A lot of people don't like these engines, especially because they have Siamese intake runners. You know, they'll have just one runner feeding 2 cylinders. Like this particular runner right here feeds cylinder number 1 and 3. This one feeds 5 and 7, and so forth. You'll notice that one of the runners is actually bigger than the rest, this one right here. And that's because on the firing order, 5 and 7 fire one right after each other, 5 first and then 7. So the engineers at GM felt that they needed to make this runner bigger to feed 2 cylinders almost at the same time. The rest can be thinner because one cylinder will draw air and then it'll stop and rest, and then another one will draw air later. So it's actually not that bad. It only draws air 1 cylinder at a time. And like I said, this one is for a turbo, and of course the turbo is going to be mounted right there. And this is the intake that comes from the carburetor. The carburetor will suck air into this turbo, compress it, and force it down into this lower intake. It's a draw-through carbureted system. It's kind of a small turbo for this engine, but smaller turbos are better for draw-through systems because they provide velocity. These turbos, they have to be arranged like this actually, because what happens is with a draw-through carburetor system, you do get liquid fuel puddling up, and like if the turbo's arranged like this, the fuel doesn't have a chance to puddle up inside the turbo because it'll just keep going down into the lower intake. If they was to arrange the turbo at a different clocking position like this, you might think that would be better because now it's going straight down into the intake. That might be better for performance, but at low RPM, fuel would puddle up right here. You know, you always got wet fuel in a carbureted system, and at low RPMs, if it was to idle for a while, it would just build up fuel right here, and then you would start having unstable idle problems. And you can see there's where the fuel goes. And right here, if you mount it like that, you could see the fuel could just go straight down to the lower intake. So it's actually needs to be arranged like this. And I also got the carburetor turbo plenum that goes there. You know, it bolts to right there. Those 6 bolts right there. Bolts right there, the 6 bolts. And there it is. It's got water passages going through the carburetor plenum to keep it warm in the winter, so it won't freeze. You can see the inside there. You can see it actually kind of has like a divider in there, and that's so that the primaries right here, as they drop fuel, they won't fall into the deeper side. The secondary side right here, which is deeper, needs to be deeper because when those secondaries open up, they need that extra airflow. And so there it is. You got the divider. It kind of sort of like a canal there, allowing the liquid fuel to go towards the turbo and not fall into the deeper side there. So it's a pretty well designed carburetor plenum right there. These 301 engines were not very popular, but it was actually the most powerful engine there was in 1980. You know, like the Corvette with its bigger engine in 1980 made less horsepower. You know, this Pontiac 301 engine made about 210 horsepower. The Corvette in 1980 made about 185, 190. And the Z28s made even less, about 150. The Mustang GTs made even less. They made about 120 horsepower in 1980. So this is actually a pretty good option in 1980. It was actually able to break the 200 horsepower mark with their turbocharged engine. And there you go.